Good morning, everybody. I hope you're all doing fine, fantastic. I'm Joshua Ben Joseph, and we at Essentially Sports is delighted to have with us the Hurricane from the Bronx, Shane Burgos. Shane, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us.
No problem, man. Thanks for the intro. That was a nice one.
Yeah. So a bit more about our guest for the day. Shane created waves in the featherweight division of the UFC, and now after the UFC, he is competing in the PFL. So Shane, how have you been, and how's life been treating you?
It's been good. I mean, obviously, my last fight fell through. I had a little bit of an injury there that stopped me from training for a minute, but I'm all good now. Everything's all clear, ready to go.
So, how's your recovery coming out though? Like,
It's good. I'm all good now. I'm all cleared. Everything just got cleared maybe four weeks ago, something like that.
uh huh,
So back to
that's
full
great.
training, all steam.
So, going through your Instagram recently, I actually saw an absolutely adorable Christmas picture. So, how was Christmas and how has this New Year been for you, both as a fighter and as a family man?
No, it was an awesome Christmas. It was a great. 2022 it was a great year. It's one of the best years of my life. And then finding out that I'm having another kid, which was like that was a shocker for sure. I made my wife do 3 pregnancy tests, like not even in the same day. Like I spread out because I was like, "There's no way." I was like, "There's no way." Because we were done after two. We were like, "No, we're good. Two is good." And then that came out of nowhere, and we were like, "Well, you know what? I mean, I'll find out. I think this week or the end of next week if it's a boy or a girl." And I'm like, "You know what? Maybe it's my boy coming, and he's trying to come through." So I think that that's what it is. But if it's a girl, I'm good because I already have two girls and. I love my daughters so much. I wouldn't trade them for anything. Being a girl dad is awesome. So if I have another girl, it's all good.
So yeah, congratulations on baby number three. And so, how does it feel? Like being a father for the third time, and particularly wanting a boy for the third as a third child.
I mean, what I feel like every man wants a son, right? I was content with my two daughters, but now that going into the third one, I'm like, it would be kind of cool to have like my son when I'm older watching fights with my boy. That would be cool looking back on it. But again, I just want a healthy kid. I love my daughters, so if it's a girl, I'm all good with the girl.
That's amazing. And so, talking about your fight, so your last fight in the UFC was against Charles Jourdain, and that victory, which I personally believe was one of your biggest yet. So, what made you leave the promotion? After such a sensational victory.
Just to put it bluntly, the money, the money. Just to put it as bluntly as possible. Like they made me an offer that I was like, I can't say no. Like the UFC even understood. They were like, yeah, he can't say no to that. Like it's a deal that was just too good to be true. It wasn't too good to be true because I'm not the only one that's got this deal. So props to the PFL for handing out these deals to other guys too. So, I mean, they're trying to build their roster and they're doing a fucking great job doing it. And now you got Francis Ngannou who's a free agent. So I wouldn't be surprised if they throw some money at him to try to get him signed too.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that was actually one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Like Francis Ngannou is another big name who has recently left the UFC. So do you think the PFL should make an offer to Ngannou?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think every single promotion on the face of this earth is gonna make an offer. I know Bellator, but BKFC already put their name in there. UFC obviously wanted to keep him, so that makes it even more lucrative for these other promotions to want him. He's the first guy to go out as a champion, right? I believe. I don't think any other fighter has, not definitely not in recent UFC history, has done what he's done. So to go out on as the champ, that's pretty fucking wild. And nothing but respect. Nothing but respect for what he did. I think it was a fucking boss move, honestly.
Yeah, and Ngannou being what do you say the icon that he is, do you believe that he'll be like a major crowd puller for the PFL?
Absolutely, absolutely. He's the baddest man on the planet, right? Everyone wanted to see the John Jones fight, but I mean, now we'll always wonder about that. But I mean, if he goes out there, he kills it in PFL. Maybe we can do a cross promotion fight in the future. You never know.
So, talking about the PFL though, actually, did you get an opportunity like to meet the organizers of the PFL prior to the expiry of your UFC contract as such?
I did because this was actually my second time fighting on my contract. I fought out my deal back in was it 2019 end of 20 ended yeah end of 2019 I think it was maybe I'm not exactly sure. I think it was the end of 2019. So I fought out my deal then, and I actually sat down with the PFL executives back in New York City. So I met them years ago. So we already had a good relationship. They expressed their interest back then, and ended up re-signing with the UFC. And then again, I free agent again, and they make me this offer. That was 4 fights later, and I had those 4 fights were all bangers. So I feel like I just raised my stock even higher. So put myself in a good position, and I'm here now.
Yeah, so I mean, so I mean, you don't have to reveal the other names, but I'm sure PFL was not the only organization that made an offer to you at that time, right?
No,
So,
but they
what drew you to the PFL at that time, though?
they were the only one that it was like almost apples and oranges when it came to the deal that I got. It was like nobody else is gonna match this, so it wasn't much of a competition, honestly. The biggest competition was me just leaving the UFC. I took so much pride in being a UFC fighter. And I said this a couple times in other interviews. My manager said to me, "Are you a UFC fighter or are you a prize fighter?" And at the end of the day, when I'm all said and done with this sport, my bank account has to show something. You know what I'm saying? Like, it has to show that it was worth it. And me being a prize fighter is going to show that it's worth it more so than me saying I'm a UFC fighter. You know what I mean? Like, having the UFC gloves and some UFC shorts is cool, but at the end of the day, what's it all about? Like, I gotta provide for my family.
That is true. And as a promotion, so how is the PFL different from the UFC? You know, with regards to the rules in the fight seasons, especially though.
So with the rules, the only real difference is there's no elbows. So that's the only real difference. I would like to see them add elbows into the finals at least, or for super fights, fights that are outside the tournament. I would really like to see elbows be introduced for those fights. So if I could put some I don't know my opinion in that, I don't think it holds too much weight, but that would be cool. So the rule difference is only that, but it's a pretty clear cut difference. Like you want to fight for the belt? Okay, here's the bracket. Win these 3 fights, you're fighting for the belt. There's no politicking. There's no questions. And then the first 2 fights, you're getting point based. So the more points you get, the higher seed you get. So it's like a very clear cut structure how to get to the title, and obviously with the title comes a fucking $1 million. So I love that it's clear cut and there's no bullshit around it. It is what it is, and it's 4 fights in 8 or 9 months. So I mean, that's not just physically growing; that is mentally growing. So that in and of itself presents a whole new challenge.
That's true. So, but why do you think they have the no elbows rule? Is it because of the physical damage that it can cause, or
Yeah, I think
is it
it's for,
something else? Yeah.
for the tournament. I completely understand it. It's because if I'm fighting my first fight and then 6 weeks later I got to fight my second fight, but I got a cut in that first fight from an elbow, you know what I mean? I might not get medically cleared to fight. So I think that's why they took I'm sure that's why they took the elbows out.
Also, the 6 week gap that you just said right now. So, I mean, so does the PFL give you more opportunity to fight in a year when
Yeah,
compared to other promotions?
100%. You're getting those first 2 fights are back to back. You're guaranteed the first 2 fights if you're in the tournament. The first 2 fights are to seed you. If you lose both those fights, then you're not in the tournament. But you're guaranteed those first 2 fights.
Oh, that's amazing. And do you believe that the PFL has the potential to be the biggest promotion in MMA?
Yeah, they definitely have the potential. Obviously, it's hard because the goalpost is set so far with the UFC being number one. There's no secret about that. It's not it's a fact at this point that the UFC is number one. It's the highest. It's the number one most watched. But I think that Bellator was number 2 for a while, and I think PFL has surpassed Bellator. It's so much easier to watch a PFL fight than it is to watch a Bellator fight. I mean, I I think Bellator has some phenomenal fighters. They have great fighters, but a lot of times these cards come on, and I didn't even know they were coming up. It's like last minute. They announced the card. I'm like, next week they're fighting. I'm like, what the fuck? I didn't even know. And then it's so hard to watch the fights because I already have an ESPN subscription, obviously ESPN Plus subscription. So if you have that already, you just tune into it and you can watch the PFL fights too.
That is. And so you were scheduled to fight Marlon Moraes in November, right? And yeah, you had to back out because of the injury and stuff. So will we ever get to see you fight Moraes anytime soon?
That I'll never say never. I'll never say never. There's a lot of great fights, great matchups in the PFL. So I'm excited to see who I get first. It's gonna be. I feel like just because because it's not called UFC, guys, people think that the guys aren't as good as UFC fighters, but you're out of your mind if you think these guys aren't as good. If you watch the featherweight main event, Brendan Loughnane versus Bubba Jenkins, that was a phenomenal fight, and both guys are UFC caliber fighters. Then you got Marlon Moraes fought Shaman Moraes. Both of them were in the UFC. You know what I mean? You got a lot of guys that came from the UFC. Rob Wilkinson goes on after he beats Izzy to go on this kill streak and just goes on a rampage and then wins the light heavyweight title. So the competition and the level of competition is just as good as the UFC, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going through the list of fighters that they have in their roster, and I do believe like they do have the potential, like I said, to be one of the biggest names in MMA and to be one of the biggest promotions in the MMA. And just a snippet. So, if the Moraes fight happens, how do you anticipate yourself winning though? Would it be like a submission victory, or do you prefer like a knockout or anything of that sort?
I mean, I prefer a finish. I'm not too picky about it. I mean, knockouts are fun. Obviously, everybody likes a knockout. But a finish is a finish. So it doesn't matter who I fight. I'm always gunning for the finish.
So, talking about potential opponents, a rather interesting individual recently expressed his desire to join the PFL, Jake Paul. And
He did join.
so, Jake, yeah, I mean, and the thing is, he's undoubtedly a good boxer, but how do you think he will fare in MMA?
It depends. I don't think that the PFL is stupid. I know that they're not stupid, and I don't think that Jake Paul's stupid. I know he's not stupid, so I don't think he's gonna go in there and he's gonna like. I mean, a lot of PFL guys not called him out, but asked like, I mean, if we're gonna put our name in a hat, then yeah, well, I'll fight Jake Paul, and I said the same thing. I mean, he's definitely bigger than me, but I couldn't care less. Like the money that I would make from fighting somebody like that, it's going to bring so much attention. I'm going to make stupid money. And a lot of people are like, oh, you're going to make the same money. No, I'm not going to make the same money because I'm going to get pay-per-view points off of that. So if I were to fight Jake Paul, that's pay-per-view points. Same thing for Pettis. Pettis is calling him out. Somebody else, I can't remember who. And it's not, when I say call out, it wasn't a call out in a disrespectful way. It's like, hey, well, I'm more than willing to welcome you over here because the money I'm going to make.
Yeah,
So
I did see the tweet, and you were like, "Yes, absolutely. I would
yeah,
fight him if you let me fight him and stuff." Right?
exactly. But I don't think he's gonna. Why would he fight somebody like me or somebody like Pettis right off the bat? I think he's gonna take somebody that's 0-0 or maybe 0-1 or 1-1, somebody like that, just to get his feet wet in MMA, and then maybe build up to because he's only 25 years old, which is fucking insane. Kid's only 25 years old, and I can't hate on him. He's bringing a lot of attention to the PFL. So
No, but even though he's 25, he did take on someone like Anderson Silva.
exactly.
So, yeah.
I you people can say like he's fighting guys over there past their prime or over the hill or whatever, and maybe they are a little bit, but still he's 25 and he's only been training for a couple years. So I'm like, I can't hate on the kid. I really can't hate on him. He's bringing attention to the organization that I'm a part of. So and there's gonna be a trickle down effect. The more money the PFL makes, the more money I'm gonna make too. So yeah, I'm all for it.
True.
Bring him in, let him fight. I don't care who, and let me fight on the card with him and make some pay-per-view points.
So, but one thing is pretty evident is like, I mean, the weight class wise, he is at a higher weight class, right?
Yeah,
So,
I think he fought Anderson at 185 or 190. I'm not exactly sure. So obviously he's a little bigger than me.
so I mean, if a potential Burgos versus Paul fight happens, would you be going up in weight, or would you prefer him to come down in weight, though?
I don't. He's a big guy. I don't see him ever coming that far down. But I'll be willing to. It's not even worth me talking too much about it because I feel like I don't want to look stupid. I know he's not going to take it. Why would he take it? It would be kind of stupid for PFL to even put that together. I guess you want to get his feet wet. You want to get him to fight a guy that is going to make him look good, so we can build even more intrigue into his future fights. So I would be willing to go up for sure, but I'm not going to put too much effort, too much thought into it. I'm going to focus on the guys that are in the divisions now.
Okay, that's there. But I mean, I personally do feel like it would be like a massive crowd puller because like
But it
you,
would,
you are
100% would, but it would be a risky move for
yes.
him. You know what I mean? It's a risky move for him to do.
I mean, talking about risky moves, do you think the Anderson Silva fight would have panned out in a different way if it was according to MMA rules rather than boxing, though?
Yeah, or yeah, of course. If he could kick alone, Anderson's kicks are so good. It's hard. Yeah, yes. I definitely think it would have went differently. Anderson's got some dangerous knees and dangerous kicks, so I don't think that would be the same fight if they had MMA gloves on. Especially, not even counting the jiu-jitsu part of it.
Mm-hmm. True. And so yeah, so I mean, I was actually recently talking to Terence McKinney. I had an opportunity to talk to him, and he was actually telling me like, since we were talking about Jake Paul now, I just thought I'd ask this question. So, mixed martial artists are paid far lesser when compared to other combat athletes, say professional boxers, for instance. So, do you think there should be a revised pay grade for mixed martial artists across promotions?
Absolutely. I don't think you can ask one fighter that would disagree with that. There's not one of us that are going to say, no, we're paid good enough. Everybody, because even the guys at the top want to get paid more. You see John Jones just signed his new deal. You see Ngannou just turned down a huge deal. Like, all of us want to get paid more. And this is the most fucking dangerous. I mean, it's not like we're playing hopscotch here. We're not playing golf. Those guys in golf are making $30 million a year. Like we're not playing. We're fighting each other. We're throwing punches, kicks, knees, elbows. We're trying to break each other's arms, choke each other unconscious. So I feel like we should get compensated for that. I mean, what like when it's all said and done, it's got to be worth it, man. It really has to be. Like, I don't want to look back on my, that's why I left. Because I don't want to look back on my career when I'm 40, 50 years old and be like, shit, I should have done something more. I should have stood my ground or spoke up more to get paid more. It's hard. What we're getting paid now, if they gave us a raise, how much would they raise it for it to make a difference? You know what I mean? Because if they did, it would have to be a substantial raise. But can they afford to do
Right.
that? Yes and no.
I will tell you. I'll tell you when I actually saw the difference. There was that one particular year when both Ngannou and Tyson Fury fought. Both are heavyweight fighters. So
Yeah,
Tyson Fury got paid 32 million, while Ngannou made 320,000. So that was the difference. Like,
that's apples and oranges. You can't compare that. That's two. You know what I'm saying? And the
yes,
crazy, it's just wild. It's really wild. I mean, not to take anything away from those guys that are making that money. I think that if you're one of the best athletes in the world, you deserve that money, no matter what the sport is. You perfected your craft, like Tiger Woods. I can't take it. His sport isn't a dangerous sport, but he's one of the best to ever do it. Like, he's perfected that skill. He deserves to be getting paid that much, especially if there's interest and people want to see it. Same thing for us, though. People want to see us fight, and if we're one of the best at putting it all together, punches, kicks, knees, elbows, wrestling, defensive jiu-jitsu, offensive jiu-jitsu, if we're one of the best at putting all that stuff together, I think we're literally taking 10 different sports, putting them in one. We got to perfect them all, and if we're the best at doing that, I feel like we should be compensated heavily for doing that.
that is true. So I'd like to go back a few years. Like when you were younger, when you decide, to like pick up martial arts. Like this is what I want to do in my life and things like. When do you decide that though?
I was just talking about this today, actually. I fell in love with the sport when I was 14 years old. I just saw it on TV, 13 or 14 years old, and I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Love at first sight. I was addicted to it. Was like, it's probably too crazy for me. I don't know if I can ever do that, but I was like, I liked boxing at the time too, so I was like, maybe I do boxing. Then I found a local Tiger Strongman's gym that I'm still at right now, and I tried my first class, and I was like, that was fun. That was fun. That was a different kind of fun. I was like, I don't think I'll do that as a career, but you know what? I want to train forever. Fast forward 2 years after that, coach said, "You want to fight?" And at that point, I already been doing a million grappling tournaments. Or like, "You want to fight in the cage?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And I haven't looked back since. And I was like, "This is the best."
So, what was your family's reaction like? Obviously, I can just imagine myself going to my mom and dad and telling, what, I want to be a fighter. I can anticipate what they're going to say. So, what is your family's reaction like?
It, well, when I first became a hardcore fan, they became hardcore fans with me. Like, my brothers are 10 years younger and 8 years younger, so they've been watching it since they like were out of the womb almost, and they're just as much hardcore fans as I am. So me just watching it and bringing all my family and friends into the sport. Once I decided I wanted to do it, it was very natural. They weren't even surprised that they fully supported me. They haven't missed one fight. The only fight they missed was the pandemic fight. That was the only fight they ever missed. So other than that, they've been at every single fight, cheering me on, and nothing but supportive.
So, now that you're having your journey with the PFL, so how has your training changed, like when compared to what you were doing back in the other promotions?
So it honestly hasn't changed at all, because my first fight is just going to be the first. It's hard to explain, but I'll have my camp leading up to that first fight. From that first fight to that second fight, that's when my training is going to have to change, really, because you don't really have quick turnarounds in MMA. It's not very common. I mean, you're not at least you're not scheduled. Usually, if you get a quick turnaround, it's because you're filling in for a spot. But to go from a full fight camp to a fight, then be done with the fight, then go into another full camp right away, that's going to be something I don't know how I'm going to adjust it, but it's going to have to get adjusted. And I'm just going to have to see how my body feels and see how my body reacts, and then train accordingly to that.
Perfect. And so, I mean, in the PFL, do you think you'd have a better chance as a grappler or as a striker, though?
I think I have a good chance striking against most people. Honestly, I think a lot of people like to see me strike, but I know I can wrestle, I can grapple. A lot of people don't see that, but if you came to the gym, you would see that. I really, especially lately, I've been really loving wrestling and grappling. So I really do pride myself in being a complete mixed martial artist. Like, if you look at my stats for the UFC, I have one of the highest takedown defense stats in the division. That doesn't really get talked about much, but I'm very hard to take down, and I'm very hard to hold down. So I don't know, man. Yeah, I do like striking, though, so it's hard for me to say. After I got my first knockout when I was like 19 years old, like in a kickboxing fight, I was like, holy shit, that was fun. So I was like, that turned me on to being more of a striker. But a finish is a finish. So if the neck is there, I'm gonna go for it too. So we'll see.
So, So what's your like the your favorite move that, or maybe that you've not tried yet, something that's like that might actually ensure like a sensational finish? Do you have like any particular favorite move that you wish to try inside the ring?
I had some cool finishes as an amateur, like some cool jujitsu finish amateur. I had like an omoplata, like rear naked choke hybrid finish that was pretty cool. It was my second amateur fight, and then I had a darce, like an inverted darce off the top of the cage, like my feet were going up the cage and I was darcing the dude. So that was a cool finish. Um, the only finish I haven't gotten yet that I really do want is a head kick knockout. I think everybody kind of wants that, but I really have. I made a bet with my friend when I was like 18 years old, and it still stands. It's like $100. He's like, I'll give you $100 if you kick somebody in the face and knock them out. So I bet it's still standing. So I'm trying to cash out on that one.
So how soon can we expect to see you get that $100 from your friend though?
I every fight I'm going for the finish, right? But now that just reminds me. So the next one maybe that's what we're gonna go for.
Next one. So yeah, we'll take your word on that. So the
Yeah,
next fight.
better hear first.
So, yes. So fighting aside, now that you're with the PFL, do you get to spend a lot more time with your family?
I mean, yeah, because I was supposed to fight in November. That actually, like I said, it fell through. So I was able to go on a vacation right after just to get away, clear my mind, take my family on a vacation. I get paid good from the PFL still, so that works out. Since my last fight, I've spent a lot of time with my family, and then going into the season, I want to make sure I'm spending as much time as I can possibly, because once I'm in the season, it's going to be training, fighting. So I want to make sure I'm amplifying that time right now and getting as much quality time as I can before I start training full time and going into the season.
That's amazing. And I know that your daughters is still young, but what are their thoughts on their dad being a fighter? Like, I mean, imagine my dad was a fighter. I would actually be telling my classmates, my seniors, I even tell my teachers my dad's a fighter. So,
You would think that, right? You would think that my daughter, like, she's like, you're not cool. Like, I don't really care. Like, she keeps me in check. She really is, like, keeps me humble. She's like, yeah, you're on TV. Big whoop. Like, it's so funny. But, like, when she was really little, it was, like, I have a video of her, like, she was maybe 2.5 years old, and she saw me at the weigh-in show, and I pointed to her. I said, Avery. And she's like, that's my daddy. That's my daddy. So that was, like, I'll have that shit makes me fucking cry just thinking about it, man. It was the cutest thing ever. But now she's a little older. It's just so normal to her. She's so used to it that she's just like, yeah, all right, big whoop. No big deal. Like it's funny.
do you see any of your children, current or upcoming, following in your footsteps?
With my kids,
Yeah.
no. My wife would never let it. My wife can barely handle me fighting, so I can't imagine her with our daughters fighting. But my youngest one is a little savage, so I wouldn't be completely surprised if she wanted to follow in my footsteps, honestly.
That's amazing. So, as we come towards the end of this interview, like I've actually made a list of a few PFL fighters. So I actually want you to tell me like if you'd see yourself fighting them, and if yes, how you'd expect to win that fight. Like if it's like again a submission or a takedown or something even more sensational than that. Awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
So the first one is Lance Palmer.
Lance Palmer. I like Lance Palmer. We follow each other on Instagram. He's a cool guy. He's a tough fight. I don't know how I would see myself winning. I just see myself winning that one. I don't know. He's a tough guy, so he's hard to finish too. So maybe decision I'd say, but I'm always gonna go for the finish. I don't want to pick a decision, so I don't know. Flip a coin on that one.
That's nice. And the next one would be Chris Wade.
Chris Wade. I trained with Chris Wade before. He's fucking strong. Trained with Chris Wade before. Decision maybe. I don't know.
Come on, we're waiting for a knockout. We're waiting for a
Yeah,
knockout.
I know. You're just trying to pull it out of me so I can get like a headline or something. Like, oh, Shane
I'll
Burgos.
give you one more name. The eccentric Bubba Jenkins.
The Bubba Jenkins. I was more impressed with his last fight than I've been with any of his other fights. I was really impressed with his last fight. I was like, holy shit, his striking looked good, his wrestling. He didn't take Brendan down, but he was able to control him on the cage for a little bit. So I was like, a very, very, very exceptional fighter. So, but if I had to pick how I'm going to win, I'm going to pick that. I'll give you a knockout on that one.
Perfect. And finally, last season's champion, Brendan Loughnane.
That'd be a phenomenal fight too. That big fan of Brendan. One of the best. I think pound for pound fighter. I think he's probably the best pound for pound fighter in the PFL right now. That has fought. I haven't fought in the PFL yet, so I can't say that about myself. So I'll give him that. Me and Brendan would have a fucking war. He has never been finished. So I would love to be the first one to do that, but it's hard to say. So war, fucking war.
And again, in the promotion, like, are there any mixed martial arts fighters that you wish to see fight in the PFL though?
Everyone, I think that more guys are going to go to free agency after they see what I did and what Ngannou did, and how much money they can make outside of the UFC. Like the UFC, it's where you make your name, but guys, there's money outside the UFC. Like I know everyone wants to be the UFC fighter. You want to call yourself a UFC fighter. I understand that. I get it. I was there. And when this shit is all said and done, you got to look at your bank account and you got to say it was worth it. And not always does that mean the UFC is going to make it worth it. You know what I mean? So just broaden your horizons. Who would I want to see? I don't know who's coming to the end of their deal, but I honestly want to see everybody. I want to see the best fights in the world. I want to see the best guys fight the best guys. So I want to see more guys from the UFC come to the PFL, and then maybe again, like I said, maybe we could do a cross promotion. I think that would be so fucking dope to do like a UFC versus PFL, because they did that with Bellator and Ryzen. So why can't PFL and UFC do that? I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, when I was seeing the PFL fights, I actually had one name in mind, but he's been retired for too long. I was like, how would GSP fare in the PFL? Like, I was like,
I think he could still compete. Honestly, he looks like he's in phenomenal shape nowadays still. But
oh, he is, yeah.
So I wouldn't be shocked if he could still compete and win a tournament.
Absolutely. And so, in closing, I mean, I know a lot of your fans are actually looking forward to seeing you fight. Do you have any special message for your fans out there?
Everything I brought to the UFC and why you guys are fans of me. I don't even like calling you guys anyone fans. I appreciate that. If you're a fan of my work, that's awesome to hear. But everything that I brought to the UFC, I'm just bringing it right to PFL. Everything that you expect to see out of me, because every time you see me fight, you know exactly what you're gonna get. You're gonna get an exciting fight. I don't know how to have a boring fight, so my first fight in the PFL to my last fight in the PFL, I promise you guys, every single one of those is gonna be exciting, and as exciting as I could possibly make it.
Awesome. And as a fighter, you'd obviously have your set of doubters as well. In one line, if you could have a message for your doubters too, what would that be?
Keep doubting me, motherfuckers. Keep doubting me. I'm about to be a millionaire.
Absolutely. Shane, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. It was truly an honor, and I wish you all the very best for all your upcoming fights, though.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Thanks for the interview.
Thank you so much. Thank you.